What happens when an artist stops waiting for opportunity and starts building it for an entire creative community? Welcome to the Creative Life Podcast, the place where creatives go for inspiration. I'm Dr. Jessica Olson, creative coach and your host, joined by co-host Dr. Jacqueline Gibbons. Today's guest is Xavier Jackson, founder and CEO of the Local Art Plug, a creative platform and community helping connect artists, musicians, collectors, and entrepreneurs throughout Omaha and beyond. In this episode, we're diving into entrepreneurship in the arts, building creative ecosystems, overcoming barriers for emerging artists, and what it really takes to turn vision into impact. Whether you're building a business, growing as an artist, or searching for ways to create meaningful community, this conversation is filled with insight, honesty, and inspiration you won't want to miss. Welcome to the show, Xavier.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. So Xavier, for listeners who may not be familiar with your work, what is Local Art Plug and what inspired you to create it?
Definitely. So Local Art Plug, as of right now, is an online platform as well as an in-person platform. So we connect artists, art lovers, and creatives with businesses, nonprofits, and the community through in-person events, through online events, through workshops, and educational series as well. We have a venue space downtown at the Flatiron Building that we rent out to artists and the community members as well to be able to activate and really build their brand and build up their repertoire, their business, if you will, their name, and be able to grow from there and hopefully get into bigger venues and things of that nature. Outside of that, we also do creative consulting. So if a venue or event or even an organization needs creatives for their event, a musician or maybe live painting, we help facilitate that. And if they need somebody to manage that event, we can also do some management services there too. So a little bit of everything.
Oh, I love that. That is amazing. So let me talk about this. So you're doing a lot of things and it is so beautiful and so wonderful. So Xavier, was there a specific moment where this idea really clicked?
Yes. So I'm glad we have a little bit of time to talk about it too. It began when I was in college. I really fell in love with arts and the creative just field. So originally when I went to college, my dream was to be able to create a commercial that aired during the Super Bowl. So I got into advertising, got into marketing, and then halfway through my freshman year, I switched my major from marketing to ad PR and public relations with broadcast production emphasis, and then a minor in art and English as well. So through that experience, I really fell in love with art history. I got to be able to travel to different countries through just being a videographer as well with the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. So I got the chance to go to Spain. I also got the chance to go to China as well. And during those travels and during those trips, I was able to bring home a little piece of art with me. And those artworks had stories with them attached. But a lot of the times when I met those artists or bought that artwork, it was just someone I just randomly happened to walk past on the street. And I figured, if I didn't walk past that person on that day, I wouldn't have gotten this, amazing artwork that I now still have and cherish and that I can share with other people. And how many other artists are out there that are, maybe walked past or looked over, or maybe if you just didn't go there on a Tuesday, you missed them and, you could have had that great connection. So that was the original spark for the idea, as well as while I was in college and I was in the journalism school, I kind of wanted to switch to the arts college, but I found out that I needed a portfolio. I had no clue what a portfolio was coming into high school. So I Googled what that was and I was like, oh, I wonder how many other students don't know what a portfolio is or even have that. So originally the idea was a magazine called Showcase, and I couldn't find anyone to help me with that magazine when I was in college. I graduated and I started working construction. Wasn't my major at all, but it was the first job I got, and I was like, oh, this sucks. I was making money, but at the same time, it wasn't my passion. But through a series of friends, I found different accelerators and incubators, and I took the magazine idea to what's now an online platform for artists to be able to connect with each other, to be able to grow and learn from each other and hopefully find opportunities. And then I've been able to use that to leverage, to find opportunities for artists, to make it a little bit easier for them to navigate the business ecosystem.
Oh, that is so amazing. I love so this makes a lot more sense to me now because I've seen you on social media. I'm sure a lot of people watching today have actually seen you on social media. So that makes sense. You also talked about how broad it is what you do, but hearing your story and about how you were journeying through, and just even when you said you were in Spain and you're in China and you I can bring this back. And I love it when creatives bring things back. You know who else brought something back? Ariel. From Movie Creative House. She brought something back. Curtis Reynolds from Broadway Bar brought something back. So Xavier, you're another example of someone who is bringing something back to our community. You saw a gap and now you're feeling it. Oh, I love it. All right,
Yeah,
Dr. Gibbons, it's up to you
absolutely.
now.
So you've spoken openly about feeling isolated and
Yes.
trying to break into the art scene early on. So how did those experiences shape the mission behind Local Art Plug?
Definitely. So during the journey of becoming an entrepreneur and as well as just going through arts classes, I found that a lot of it is isolating just because you have to kind of be by yourself to work on your craft, which can be good and bad at times. You know, it can be good because you get a lot of things done, you can really focus, but it can be bad because sometimes you can be your biggest critic, your biggest enemy, and you don't necessarily know where you stand in reality. But I found that there's other people who also work on things alone, you know, so you don't necessarily have to be isolated while you're working. It's kind of a choice. And that's what led me to really come up with one of our flagship events, which is Creatives and Coffees. So that's geared and focused on those isolated creatives or entrepreneurs because I would spend every Saturday, I think, pretty much grinding by myself for like an hour or two at the library or at a coffee shop or something. And I was like, oh, I wonder who else wants to come and, you know, we can all be in our own little bubbles, but we'll be in our bubbles together. So I like to call it introverted extroverts. You know, we're all out there talking somewhat, but we're really just working on ourselves. And I've heard from a lot of people that's been able to let them or allow them to get back into the creative arts and really get out of their shell, you know, and get back out there.
Excellent. That's actually, I read some recent research that can be referred to as body doubling. So when you are working on something independently, but having another presence there, will it's kind of almost it's almost like an accountability thing, but a community thing as
Yes,
well. Some people even do it via Zoom. They just have these Zoom rooms and they're body doubling. But it's for their own progress, but also for sense of community.
definitely.
Love that.
No, and we are always about community,
Yes,
right? And so
absolutely.
I love, and I also like the term body doubling too, because people at home. So what you're doing here, so about 80% of our viewers are from the United States, but outside of that, they're from all over the world. So it's really interesting that one, you brought something back, but also our creatives, they can take what you're sharing today and they can take it to their own communities or their own creative practice. Like you said, I was at the library and I just asked myself a question, maybe somebody else wants to do this, and then it caught on. And sometimes it's just that maybe question. So
You were tapped into that inspiration before it was even research.
Yes.
Little did you know,
Yeah.
you started the trend. So, what are barriers that emerging artists face that people outside the arts may not understand?
A lot of the barriers that emerging artists face that people outside the arts may not understand, I'd say a big one is a lot of the artists just want to create the art. They don't really care about the business side. They want to make money, but they don't care about making money. It's an interesting, like, dynamic, interesting situation to be in. So you kind of have to educate them on how they are a business as an artist. So there's been a lot of education and kind of telling them the benefits of having some of these documents and some of these almost professional things that'll help you take your art to the next level. So a lot of the artists, I'd say, they don't have that experience to know that, oh, I need an artist statement, maybe I need an artist resume or even a portfolio or something like that to apply for these larger grants and these larger opportunities. We've been able to come in and help them a lot with that, as well as some grant writing help here and there. Maybe, you know, English might not be their first language or even writing might not be a strong suit for them. So being able to really take their craft and put it into words can help them find funding and opportunities as well. And that's one of the disconnects that I've been finding with a lot of the emerging artists is they don't know how to tell their story, they don't know how to sell themselves, and then oftentimes they may not be super interested in selling themselves because they feel like they might be selling out or they're against capitalism, I share your same sentiments, definitely, but I definitely want you to be successful in your art career. So there's a few things that you have to kind of, it's not all fun. It's not all fun. There's some things you have to kind of,
Right.
work through.
Thank you. And actually, you kind of touched on what leads into my next question, and I'm very much looking for your response to this. Why was accessibility such an important part of your vision?
Definitely. I'm glad you asked that too. So a lot of people, a lot of the viewers from outside of the states may not know, or outside of Nebraska may not know, but it's very cliquish, and I'll say it here, and I know a lot of people in town know that too, but especially when I first began this in 2017, 2015, around that time, everyone kind of hung out in their own little pockets in different parts of town. Everyone in South Omaha hung out in South Omaha, et cetera, et cetera. And my idea was to be able to not only make art accessible, because some people in South Omaha couldn't necessarily get to North Omaha to those events and vice versa, but also people just weren't traveling around the city. They would only go to First Fridays. First Fridays is an event that happens in a lot of communities, and every First Friday, artists, galleries, bars open up. But they would only go in certain parts of town, and they would never venture out. So one of the things we would try to do is take these artists to different parts of town to have shows with artists who aren't from that part of town, to be able to make that cross-pollination.
Oh, that's really, so I like that. I'm just gonna dig in here really quick, because there are two things that you shared for Dr. Gibbons' question. So the first thing is you're talking about the business side of art.
Yes.
And there is a necessary business side of art. Like you said, you have to have an artist statement. You need to have a bio. Perhaps you need to have some type of portfolio, whether it's physical or digital or a representation. So the fact that you're also stepping into that gap too, and is that only for people who are here locally in Omaha, or do you have remote opportunities for people to partner with you, or is that only just something specific for Omaha?
We have opportunities for people to partner with us remotely as well. We have some artists who are located on the East Coast. I believe there's one who's in London as well. For those artists, we do more marketing and promotion services online. We can't do as many in-person pop-up events yet. So, it's coming. But yeah, we can definitely help artists all around the world be able to take their craft to the next level and help them get that professional element to their creative process.
Okay, and I love that you're basing that here in Omaha.
Yes.
You're saying like, hey, Omaha's still the hub. We're still, this is the home, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to connect your ability to reach out, but you're also able to reach within our communities. So going to different areas. And so there are people who are not from Omaha, but we do have very distinct neighborhoods.
Yes.
And those distinct neighborhoods, they are their own little small economies. They have their restaurants, they have their grocery stores, they have their venues. So you truly don't need to venture out. I tell people, if you ever been to New York and it has all the different boroughs, all the different neighborhoods, Omaha is similar to that as well. We
Yes.
have all of our different neighborhoods. So I understand how the complexity of accessibility, and what you're thinking about is, hey, there are artists in this neighborhood that need to share the art in this neighborhood. And I think it comes back to being in China and Spain and saying, if I wasn't there on a Tuesday, would I have ever met them? Well, if this artist from West Omaha never comes to South Omaha, a whole population is lost without their art.
Exactly.
Like it never happens. It never cross-pollinates. So I like that you brought that conversation, because we want to have those conversations, right?
Right. And something else that I love with regards to access, you were speaking to if an artist maybe writing isn't their strong suit, or maybe finding the words to properly represent themselves. We have different skills, and we have plenty of weaknesses, and having access to collective intelligence where we're lifting up one another with our strengths. I love that.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so that brings me to the next question. So one thing that stands out about the local art plug is that it's more than just a gallery or website. It feels like a creative ecosystem. We just started really talking. Now I understand why it feels like a creative ecosystem, because you're intentionally connecting. But tell me now that you had that vision, what does actual community building look like for you?
So now that I've had that vision, what actual community building looks like for me is creating opportunities for those artists, and allowing them to see some type of financial gain from that. When I started out as well, artists were being paid in, we like to say, exposure dollars, which is great. Everyone loves exposure, but I can't eat exposure. They can't eat exposure. And, your landlord doesn't accept exposure. So we've been trying to figure out ways and more opportunities for them not only get paid, but you kind of have to educate not only, I wouldn't say you have to educate everyone, but some people don't necessarily see the value in art instantly. And maybe sometimes they think, oh, this should be done for free. Or maybe they want a huge mural on their wall and they're like, oh, you can I'll buy the paint for you. You just come spend 6 hours painting it. So there's just some education left, but there's also grants for those business owners who may not have the funds to be able to support that artist. So there's ways for those people to be able to afford the art and be able to pay for that artist's time and their ability as well. So we've been trying to help, bridge the gap on the education on both sides of that. And then I'd also say that it looks like not only the artist being able to create revenue for themselves from that, but also them being able to land those larger grant opportunities. The Nebraska Arts Council will have larger 1% opportunities that can sometimes be inaccessible for those emerging artists because there's so many requirements. And if you don't have a team of people working with you, you can't go after a $500,000 opportunity, you know? You just kind of have to watch it pass you by and you're just like, why? Why don't I ever get a chance? And that's where we come in to try to help. Yeah.
I like that you're providing that service to the community. And that actually goes into your next question about visibility and monetization. So go ahead and take it away.
Right.
This is the perfect, like this is what we wanted to talk
Yes,
about.
absolutely. So a lot of creatives struggle with that visibility and monetization. And hey, here's the paint. Go spend 6 hours on this mural, right? So what are some practical ways that artists can begin treating their creativity like a sustainable career?
Definitely. I'd say start to value yourself and your time. I know that in the beginning it can be awkward to ask for the money, but you have to ask for the money. And if you don't value yourself, then your client won't value you or your work. And it's great to be able to do it for the love. It's awesome to give back, and there's definitely times and opportunities for that. But then there's times to be, kind of serious and know when you have to draw the line and say, okay, this is something that I have to charge for. I think you have to be okay with that as an artist, as well as okay with charging what the market rate is. So, for example, if let's say artists use the term like they when it comes to a mural for a wall, for example, they'll do maybe like $75 a square foot or $50 a square foot, which might turn into like depending on the size of a wall, maybe like $10,000 or something like that. But then there's other artists who will come and say, oh, that's way too much. I only charge $500 because I just don't feel comfortable asking for that much money. When it's really, that's what, is the industry standard, and they're really just lowballing themselves and they don't even know it. And that comes from a lack of education too.
Right. What like a stark difference when you don't know your value. Wow. Such a tremendous service that you're providing. So I'm wondering if this may kind of work into what separates the artists who grow, I would say, within their career as an artist from those who stay stuck.
That's a good question too. I'd say what I've noticed, it separated those artists that grow from those who stay stuck. The artists who grow oftentimes show their art more often and put themselves out there more often, so they're not afraid to fail as much. Whereas some artists stay stagnant because they spend all of their energy focusing on one big art show, and they think like, oh, this is going to be the one that's going to make and break it, and I'm going to get $1 million clients and all this stuff. But if you stay consistent, I've seen those artists have the most success, be able to grow their clientele and then be able to raise their prices over time. And those are the artists who've looked at it as a business from the beginning, like, oh, I want to do this as a job, and kind of thrown themselves into it. And there's other people who kind of see it as a side hobby or something that they like to do for fun, and they would like to make money at it. It'd be nice, but they don't care if they do or they don't. I think that mindset is kind of one of the determining factors, as well as being able to learn and educate yourselves, and networking. Networking is huge for artists. So being able to go out there and not necessarily work a room, but maybe even just be in the room. And that can be hard. A lot of artists are introverts, myself included. So yeah, you have to get out there though if you really want your career to thrive.
Right.
All right. So since we're talking about creative growth and stagnation, but you worked with both emerging and established artists. Yes. So you have a perspective on both actually. And then what do you think all creatives have in common regardless of where they are in their journey?
That's a good question. Yep, I do have the perspective of the emerging and the established. I'd say that something that all creatives have in common, that's a really good question, is definitely their curiosity. They're definitely interested in a lot of things. They might not necessarily be educating themselves, but they like to learn a lot of things. If it's not necessarily educating, just focused on the business, maybe it's learning new techniques, learning new crafts, or even just going out there and trying things. They're very adventurous and outgoing people, and that's across the board. Yeah, I'd say that's something that they all have in common.
You know who he's reminding me of? Sarah Crawl from Radio Arts Center.
Yes.
She's talking, she was on our show recently, and she was talking about how she was creating a new style. She was experimenting in the media. So you're right, curiosity is something that a lot of, like, if I'm thinking about all of our creatives, they're curious either about their own personal experience and journey, about the world around them, or about how materials mix together. Yeah, that's a really good observation,
Yes.
Xavier. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
Curiosity is that, it is that one common thread that is there.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right.
He knows. He knows what he's talking
I
about.
mean, Xavier,
That's why this guy's here.
That's why he's here. That's because he knows. Yeah.
Okay, so we, of course, are, we love community, and we, hope that what we do here is lending itself to the creative community. And you being on here will have even more people knowing about the community you're building. So building something community focused often comes with resistance early on. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while growing a local art blog?
That's a good question too. I'm glad you asked that. So when I first started, I went through the lens of a startup accelerator incubator. So it's like I was trying to build a tech company. So I would go out and interview people. So I got maybe 100 interviews. So I talked to people from all different industries to see where the biggest pain point was, to see where we could make the biggest impact. I talked with people who had clothing boutiques, tattoo artists, gallery owners, people who ran nonprofits. And a lot of those people in the beginning were kind of rude and standoffish to me. They saw me as like competition early on. I was like, no, I don't want to compete. I want to compliment. But they didn't understand that. And then, that's just part of, I think, the art scene, being new to anything, being new to any community. But after like a year of them seeing me out there and doing it, some people came back around and apologized. We're still friends, a lot of us. I'd say that was definitely a big hurdle to overcome, was people were just kind of confused on what I was doing and thinking that I might be competing or trying to steal something away from them or what was going on. But at that same time, a lot of the gallery scene was dying, and they were converting into arts nonprofits. So a lot of the people I was talking to was gallery owners who were probably, a little bit upset that their gallery was going out of business, and a lot of those galleries don't exist anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, if they didn't convert to a nonprofit, they didn't make it. Yeah, and sadly, yeah.
Yeah.
Xavier, I'm going to jump in here really quick because actually something's clicking for me. So you started the local art plug probably around the time that I started feeling the same thing about the creative life. So you said 2017, 18, pre-COVID. So then
Yes.
post-COVID was when a lot of things started shutting down. It was really hard for businesses. I remember, so I grew up with creativity, but after post-COVID, I started going out to events. The venues were half full. I was like, where is everybody? Aren't we all supposed to be going out? And then I was like, okay, let's write down a list of things that we can do to help support the arts community. This podcast is one, called you like, hey, I got the crazy idea. But no, it's actually clicking because you saw the same thing. You
Yes.
saw the same loss. You're like, I just had all these 100 or so interviews. Some of these people aren't even around anymore. Like, I mean, their business, their dreams are not here, and that is a real thing. Like, not just the fact that financially having something, but also burnout too.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest things I'm starting to see now too, is burnout with creatives and just their emotional readiness or emotional resilience, right?
Yes.
But what you're pointing to is like, hey, they saw me as competition, but then you're being intuitive. You're just like, actually, there were a lot of other things going on there too. And then you're still here. You're still showing up, and you're still saying like, I am going to connect you. Hey, business, this creative needs a rate. You can't pay the rate. Let me help you get a grant so you can pay this artist. It's like, so you are really helping sustain the creative ecosystem. That is That is commendable, Xavier. It truly is.
When you put it like that, I didn't even realize what I was doing. I'm just, yeah.
Sometimes you just
Thank
need
you.
a mirror
Yeah.
to
Wow.
look
Yeah.
at you and just say like, hey, this is what you're
Yeah.
doing, and what you're doing matters.
Thank you.
Yes. All
I
right.
mean, you're creating possibility, you know? It's life-changing.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Oh,
All righty.
thank you.
It's you.
It's me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
We're at the final countdown. It's you.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
Go
clock's a
ahead.
ticking. Okay. So you've talked about the importance of preventing brain drain
Yes.
and helping creatives build sustainable careers here in Nebraska. Why is that mission so personal to you?
Definitely. I think it's personal to me because I was one of the people who tried to leave, but I couldn't leave. So I figured, oh, well, if I can't leave, I should try to create the things that I'd like to see here. And I think it's also important because as Nebraska continues to grow, as there's all these new investments coming, there's a lot of people who are going to miss out on kind of this next wave that's going on right now. It's almost like we're in the roaring 20s, rushing, whatever they call them, you know? So that's what I feel like is in the air right now in Omaha. And if you've been here since 2016, 17 or before, you can kind of even feel everything's kind of changing. There's more momentum, there's more events, and it just feels like a more welcoming atmosphere. So it'd be a shame for them to be able to miss out on something where they could be able to get on the ground floor and really build possibly a legacy here. So
Right.
that's why I'd love to see more people stay. Yeah.
And with Omaha building this momentum, so what do you think it is that Omaha is getting right creatively?
What is it they're getting right? That's a good question. I'd say what Omaha is getting right creatively is allowing the creative districts to thrive kind of unchecked, I guess. Not really the creative districts, but even just the creatives more so. So if they're not able to be able to do something within the creative districts, the creatives find a way, whether it's at a venue, at a public park, or some way to be able to express themselves. You know, I'll name one creative, you know, Jordan the Ninja, who's very famous, going around. He actually, you know, I don't know if he'll like me saying this, but he used to play at the park, you know, and he used to just play on street corners. I'm sure he's mentioned that a few times, but this is a very welcoming setting for creatives to be able to get their start here. So there's opportunities like that, even if you're not in the creative district. So I think Omaha just has a very welcoming creative atmosphere.
Right. Thank you.
Well, guess what? We are at the last couple of seconds of today's episode. So go ahead and tell us, so the local art plug, go ahead and tell us, how can we follow you? Where can we follow you? And where will we see you next?
Definitely. Thank you for that. Thank you for having me. You've both been amazing hosts and, you know, wonderful questions.
Thank you.
And you can find me at Local Art Plug on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well. We'll be having Creatives and Coffees and a couple other pop-ups coming up soon. Stay tuned to our social media for that, and you can also join our newsletter.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Creative Life Podcast. Know that we are streaming on all major platforms, and we're here to support you in your creative journey. So remember that your art is worth it, and keep on creating. Ta-ta.